Hey there guys, this is me, Malorian, and this is going to be a stupid video. And what I mean by that is that I shouldn't be making this whatsoever, because this video is going to result in me winning fewer games. And I already don't win that many to start with, and now that's even going to go down even further. And what that really means is that this video is going to be all about the scenario game. I'm going to teach you how to guard yourself against losing from scenario, how to stop it from happening, and I should be a good one to teach this because that's the way I play. I play scenario. When I have a chance to go for assassination, I brush it aside. No. Why would I kill a caster when I can score some flags? That's the way I play this game. So yeah, it's a big thing I've been doing for years, and what this really comes from is that our group here, a rather competitive group, decided, like, you know what we really need to do for each other to make sure that we get better is we should actually go and talk to each other about what our core strategy is. And that's a dumb thing to do because it's really teaching all the other competitive people in the area how to beat you. However, if everyone kind of like agrees to do that together, well, you're all just going to get to become vastly better players. Instead of like trying to fight to be like a little bit over the next guy beside you, you're gonna rock it up. So, you know, if you're watching this, you're like, wow, that's pretty dumb, Lauren. Why are you shooting yourself in the foot? I think you should be doing this too. But anyway, let's get right back to this video. So I think when it comes down to scenario, the very first thing you need to realize is that you have to be able to admit when it's happening. And this is something where me saying that probably sounds a little bit crazy, and Malorian, isn't it like super obvious? Like, this seems like it's almost like insulting to say, but it is very true. The very first step to this is you have to realize, and you have to be humble enough to know when scenario is a threat. And that's not just like right now on turn 5, like, oh, if I don't contest this, I'm in trouble. You need to be identifying this as soon as possible so you can guard against it. I would say right from the very beginning, when you are looking at the lists, when it's doing the list chicken, you have the list in your hand, realize by looking at them which ones are designed to win on scenario. And if you're looking at it and both of them are there set to win on scenario, you should know that's coming. They're going to come after you. And if there's even just one that's based on scenario, you better take a hard look at that and see how that goes. Now, the next step is maybe try and see if it's even a live scenario. Take a look at a scenario, and that's going to be really tied in with the list because different lists win in different ways, right? So if you have something that's going to be scoring flags with solos, if they have lots of solos, you know that's going to be a little bit more important. Whereas if they plan to be scoring flags with solos, and it's the one that's like 2 rectangles in a circle, well, you're probably going to be okay. You can probably resist that. But know from those lists, look at the very beginning, and before you even pick what list you're going to be taking against them, know and understand what the threat of scenario is and whether that's something you need to be preparing yourself for. Because even though it could be that your best list going forward might be something else, the fact that you need to try and stop them from doing whatever their win condition, that may be a lot more important given the scenario. And I would say then, of course, then when it comes to deployment and all the way through it, but I just can't stress enough that the very first step is just being humble and saying, I could lose this game by scenario. All right, so that's the hard part because it's a little bit of humble pie. It's really easy for you to walk into a game and like, oh, I'm going to win this. I'm the assassination king, or I'm going to do this and this and this. But just being that humbleness to say that you could lose by scenario, honestly, the first step. Now, I already kind of commented on it, but the second step is realizing how. How are they going to be winning on scenario? And I talked about some simple things like the fact like, hey, guess what? Solos when I go and score flags, but obviously it's a lot deeper than that. There's a lot of different ways you can kind of win on scenario. Now, the first step is with speed and jamming. So in a speed and a jam list, they want to be as fast as possible. They want to set the line of battle as far up as they can so that they are free to be scoring the scenario elements pretty much uncontested. It's just like, hey, we're fighting on your side. There's flags and things over here. Score, 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 score. Guess I get to pull ahead. So that's an important one you have to look out for. Another one to look out for is something where it's a big push. Now, something like that is usually done with feats or something like this, but it could be a thing where, okay, we might not necessarily be trying to be the fastest to be staying in the line of battle, but we're going to be doing something that's going to allow me to score a lot of things all in one turn. And that might be something like Magnus 2, where it's going to be like, well, wherever the line of battle is, it doesn't matter because you're not moving. And now I can score whatever I can, and you can't really do much to stop me. So the fact that I'm locking you down is going to really go and really set this up for a big scenario push for myself. This other part you might be seeing is something where it like literally pushes you. So if we're talking about something like Kruger 2 moving you, or something like Thexus moving you, or something like Gorton moving you, something like that where it's literally taking your models, Colgrim is another one, and moving you away is something where, if again, it's a way of winning. I push you back just enough so you're out of zones, you're not contesting, score, 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 and it's, again, not a thing where I'm pushing this so far forward that I'm scoring freely, but it's more so like in one big turn, just like a bam, I'm going to be scoring tons of points, and now I'm way ahead of you, and there's lots of ways I can close this off after. I would say the next way that people try and do this is actually with targeted attrition. So something where I am going to go and I'm going to target this area, eliminate everything in that zone, and then I'm going to score it. And I think a good example of this could be like Butcher 3. A lot of times if you see Butcher 3, it's like, oh no, this is going to be an assassination character. I got to worry about you coming across and getting me. But really, Butcher 3 can be really a powerful scenario caster. One that can really just like stand in the zone and say, hey, whatever you want to stand or send in here to go and contest, go ahead, because I'm going to slaughter it. Run in a model, run in a unit, run in a heavy, run in a colossal. I'm going to kill whatever you put in here. And so that's another way that you need to identify it. And the biggest thing is that depending on which of these ones you're facing changes the way you're going to be trying to fight these things. So let's talk about that now. We've identified that we're in trouble. We've identified the way that they're going to try and win. Let's talk about the ways that we're going to counter these things. And we'll do them in order. So the first one, what are we going to do if we're up against a list that says, I'm going to be fast, I'm going to get across the table, and I'm going to lock you out? Well, probably the obvious thing here is that you're in a race, and that if you are having any chance whatsoever to push in wherever you can, you need to take it. And that's a big thing to remember, is that there is pros and cons to building any one of these things, and so you really have to go and exploit the weaknesses that these lists have. So for example, if I'm putting a lot of points into models that have AD and fast speed, and I'm trying to get across the table, I have fewer points to be putting into things like heavies and stuff like that. So what that really means then is that if you're able to break through and get in and to contest, I'm going to have a very hard time stopping you. And so one of the biggest things that I always find people ignore, I mean, let's just start this. Let's say the first thing first, is because it was obvious. Maybe I just went over too fast. But anything you can do to try and like get that board, go for it. So if you have anything where you can go first and you can just run up, don't even really care too much if you're taking some charges. In a lot of cases, they're not designed to hit you all that hard, but you just need to get up there. And any way you can find to break through, you're going to have to go for it. So if you can go first, take it absolutely every single time. You need to just get that first and run up the board, and then even when it comes to the next turn, it's like, ooh, I can hold back and out threat. No, you never hold back. You run things into them, you hold them back, and try and keep it so that that line of battle is somewhere more in the middle as opposed to like your deployment line. Now, talking about ways about breaking through, the first one I was trying to mention there is things like, you know, heavies, trampling through. So many times I see heavies trying to do work like punch, punch, punch. That's what I did. On to the next thing. As a player, as a scenario player, that's precisely what I want to see you do. Swinging at some stupid dudes and staying way back over there. What I don't want to see, and what I'm scared, is that you're going to trample over me. Sure, you might take a couple of free strikes, but we're talking about stupid like POW 10s. They're going to do nothing to you. Trample over. Get ahead. Get into the zones. Get more aggressive. Even if it's a thing where, like, I'm going to trample over these guys, probably kill some anyway, and then get into a zone and stop something from scoring, that can be huge. That can be all you need. And even if it's a thing where, like, they have some heavies to take that out, hey, now they've dedicated it, you could probably trample in, do a little bit more work. Again, they're not going to have many because you don't have infinity points. The more things I put into fast elements to rush up, the fewer points I put into hard-hitting things that can actually fight this. The other thing is also be very careful about looking for ways where you can cut through the masses. So identify where the scoring elements are and realize that, okay, if I kill this and this and this, shoot down these, I can now run this model all the way in and contest the zone. Perfect. That's what I need to do. Or maybe I'm super lucky and I have something like an incorporeal model or something like that I can say, okay, where's your magic attacks? I'm going to run this over here to contest. And all I need to do is buy time. And that's really the biggest thing here is time. If you can keep on grinding and keep on killing and keep on really just making sure they don't score, they are going to run out of gas extremely fast. Again, they were designed to be fast, not to be strong. So if you can just stop that line of battle, keep it as more to the middle as you can, being very careful to get inside and say, I'm going to trample to this zone, I'm going to just clear a line here and go in. Like, it might make sense normally to go for the smarter piece trade. I mean, like, that's an important solo, and that's an important solo, and I want to go and I want to do this. No, that's not important here. What you need to do to make sure they don't win by scenario is by contesting their pieces. So do whatever you can and focus on those things to get in there, and then usually by, like, you know, turn 4, you're now so far ahead of attrition that they can't even fight you. At that point, they're really hoping for clock. And maybe I'll talk about clock now as well, because with a lot of scenario players, they want you to be stressed on clock, because the more that you are behind in clock, the more you're trying to quickly do things, the less you're going to do a good job of making smart plays. So especially in a list like that has lots of dudes, they're probably also looking for like a clock victory as well. And the biggest thing there is so many players, again, try and think about like that chess piece trade and be like, okay, I gotta kill this and this and this with this, and then I will go after that there. No, you can't think like that. You gotta think of your primary objective, which is contesting zones and then just killing dudes after. So get your stuff into zones, kill as much as you can, go as fast as you can, and you don't need to think as much. I mean, that's what I have to stress, that these armies are not designed to be smart. These armies are just in your face, and all you need to do is kill as many as you can. It's like one of those things where, like, if you're being attacked by like 1,000 spiders, you're not talking about like which is the biggest spider, which one should I hit first. Just start hitting and killing as many as you can, right? That's the real goal, except those spiders are apparently trying to win by scenario, so contest that. Okay, the metaphor doesn't work. Forget the metaphor. So that's the first one. The second one is something where they want to have a big explosive turn. That's that one where maybe they're trapping you and then scoring. Maybe it's something where they're pushing you away and scoring lots of pieces. And the interesting thing here is that if you see this, you actually want to go second. Because if they can go second, that's normally where they're going to be getting all their scoring from. They'll have the first chance, they're going to push you away and lock you, or depending on how they're kind of built, score, 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 you're trapped, you're pushed away, score, score, I win. So you really want to go second so that you have the first chance of scoring, not only so that they can't, but so you can. If their big strategy is that they want to get in there and jump up 3-4 control points, remember, it's not the last steamroller versions where you need 5 and then you win. Now you need to have 5 more. So any amount that you can actually get on your side is massive and really sets them back, because they're again looking for that explosive turn, and if that explosive turn typically doesn't win it for them, they're in a lot of trouble and things start turning around. Now, in a lot of these cases, it's these abilities that allow them to do stuff like this are control based. So something where like, bam, things in this areas are being affected, and that's what's being not moving or being pushed away or something like that. And the biggest thing you need to realize is, well, first of all, specifically how do they work? If it's something like Gorton, where these things within my control area are going to move 8 inches away and now they're slower and can't run, well, they're going to have a really hard time getting back into contest. Or Magnus, where I'm going to feed on these things and they're going to be locked and they can't go towards this board edge, so they can't come in. Or maybe it's something like Magnus and everything's going to move 2 inches all over the place. So the biggest thing you have to remember is, well, not only understanding how they work, but secondly, that they can only control so much. They really, what they want to see is they want to see you all ball together so they can control all your army at one time and have that explosive turn. If instead you spread out your forces, well, then all of a sudden they can't control that much. Right? So let's say it's Magnus 2. If I'm playing Magnus 2 against a block army, or brick rather, that's all staying together, I come in, I feat, you're all trapped, I'm laughing, and I do whatever I want. If all of a sudden you start spacing out, and now it's like, well, I went in and I feated, but I didn't get that heavy, so now that heavy can come and hit my heavy and kill it, and I didn't trap all those solos that stayed outside, so now they're running into contesting zones. Oh no, I'm not getting the big explosive thing I need. So not only do you want to kind of like understand their feet, so like, okay, your thing is a push. All right, if I put myself over here behind or in front of a wall, you now can't push me out. Or, you know, if I put this strong model here, if I put this heavy over here on the edge of the zone, you don't have a push effect, you have a lock effect, and I can just stand here and contest it, and that's no problem whatsoever. Or, like I said, having models further out so that they're not affected on, so that if they come in and try and take advantage of that explosive turn, not only can you charge in and maybe get an attrition advantage and make them really pay for whatever points they got, but the fact that things can run in and contest and make sure that you're really limiting whatever that explosive feat is. So knowledge is important. Going second is important to get as many points as you can before they're able to. And I think another thing to remember here is that the way that you're normally going to see these. So whereas the first little group that we talked about, that was fast, get in your face, usually doesn't have any teeth. There's nothing there to really to hurt you. In this one, there will be things that'll actually hurt you back, and that's why that ability to stay out of that control and coming back in to hit it hard is so much more important. It's not like a thing where typically you can just like trample in and they can just barely do anything to survive. They probably have now several heavies that if you do that, they're set up to get the alpha on you. So the last thing they want to see is where you are spacing out and being very careful, and now if they want to do anything and going in there and scoring flags and scoring zones or whatever, you're coming in, getting the attrition jump on them, and now they're playing a hard game because, I mean, depending on how you're built, well, you just got the jump on them attrition-wise. So this one's harder to really theorize out because there's lots of different ways this can be built. It's not as straightforward as like, hey, I have a bunch of super fast, weak things that you can just smash. Who really knows how these things are built? But in general, again, limited area of effect. You want to stay outside of them and be able to threaten to come back in and contest. And again, go second in this case and score what you can. All right, let's go for the next one, which I think is the hardest one, which is the attrition one. And I say this is the hardest one to deal with because this is more like just like playing a regular game. This is not like you have a bunch of fast, weak things. This is not like I just don't need to understand how your feet works and stay out of this bubble of control. Now, this is something where they're wanting to go in there and really do a lot of work aggressively against you. And so I think the biggest thing to understand here, where they're trying to do a scenario win that's going to be all about attrition, is you have to be very careful to understand their threats and their tricks, because the way that they're going to get up on you is they're going to try and out-threaten you with whatever they can, come in, hit hard, and then be able to score whatever they can. And I think one of the hardest things with this is that even if you play a very good scenario game, they might just switch over for attrition. So if it's something that attritions so well but leans towards scenario, I mean, you're going to have to make sure that they don't win on that scenario, but you have to also make sure they just don't win on assassination. So or not assassination, well, it could be assassination as well. They don't win an attrition. So this is, I think, the hardest one to play into. Because again, like a Butcher 3, it's not like I can just ignore the fact that you can kill my caster like that. I really have to keep that in mind. I can't just ignore the fact that if I put 3 heavies together, you will kill my 3 heavies. So you have to be very careful to be playing an attrition-focused game and a counter-attrition-focused game, but at the same time, always keeping that line of eye on the scenario and where that's going. Now, I don't think there's really too much more I can say about that. There's a couple other things I want to touch on. The first thing is your attrition and the way that you can shut down scoring, the way that you actually focus your attrition. Now, of course, like we kind of already talked about, there's different pieces that can score different elements. You got your solos that can score flags, you got your heavies that can score zones, the rectangle zones, and blah, 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 blah. And I think if you really look at that and look at ways that you can go and try and snipe out those pieces, you can really hamper your enemy if they're trying to win by scenario. So for example, if you know that, man, like they're going to keep scoring over here because of this solo, do what you can to kill that solo. That might mean that you're going to need to have to throw away an arc node so you can arc over a spell and kill it. It might mean that you need to throw away one of your really expensive solos to go and kill that one. The thing is that in the end of the day, this is all worth it. Their primary way of winning is going to be through scenario, and if you can stop that, they can't do that. They can't accomplish their goal, and now even though you might have lost a few important pieces to how you're going to succeed, you still have the main pieces of it. You can still go and bring about your win condition even though it's a little bit slower because you shut down what they can do. Or maybe like another thing they can do is they need to have a unit to score that circle, and all they have is like this little 3-man unit. Focus on that 3-man unit. Get it wiped out. Or maybe it's one of these cases where they have a 10-man unit and a very important solo. Kill that 10-man unit. Again, the laws of chess and the laws of peace trade dictate that you should be going after that more valuable solo. But in this case, because it's the unit that's going to be scoring that zone, focus on them. Wipe them out, and then all of a sudden, if all of a sudden they can't be scoring this because they don't have that solo over there anymore, they don't have that unit, maybe you made sure that the heavy that was going to be over here is taken care of. Okay, now that makes it so much easier for you in the way that you can actually go ahead. I think another thing we have to talk about is turn 7 scenario. I think one of the biggest things that really changed me as a better player is when I started going from, I'm not going to explode and try and win on scenario right now. I'm going to go and get ahead, and I'm going to stay ahead, and then I'm going to be winning on turn 7 because I have more scenario points than you. So that's something you need to make sure you're keeping in mind. Like we said, in a lot of these cases, you need to shut them down and then claw your way forward. You need to realize that you're on a clock. You need to realize that, okay, I stopped my opponent from winning on scenario. They're 3 more points ahead than I am. They're not going to score any more. I can now play my attrition game. But at that same time, you can't relax. You can't say, oh, I'll just slowly kill this and this and this. No, you have to start making sure that you counter score. You have to make sure that you now bring that control to parity, those control points, and then eventually you ahead. Otherwise, they're going to still win on scenario, even though they didn't get to 5 ahead of you. And again, I think this is a very important part because if you play against a very experienced scenario player, that's going to be in their mind that I don't need to win. I don't need to be exploding right now. If I can just get ahead enough, and then hold on to that and slowly give up pieces. Then in the very end, I'll still be up, and if I'm just up one control point at the end of the game, I win the game. Now the thing is that remember that the tiebreaker after that will be points destroyed. And so normally that scenario player, in order to keep you back and hold on to that, is giving up pieces, and they'll be behind the point trade. So even if you end up being equal, you're pretty much going to beat them. You just want to make sure they don't have more control points than you. And again, it might be a thing where, hey, I really wanted to kill this heavy, but if I kill their objective, that's the 1 point I need to bring us to even control points. Go for it. That's what you need to do. Because again, the biggest thing that I can't stress enough is where Death Clock makes this more difficult the longer you go on. The more that you're getting to these later stages of the game, and now you realize like, oh, you know, I'm winning, I'm kicking this guy's butt, but I no longer have the time to make the tactical attacks I need to score where I need to win. And that's where they're going to get ahead, and that's where they're going to win. So anyway, this is a long video, lots of information for you to listen to, and so hopefully you got a lot from this, and hopefully it means, unfortunately, I'll be winning a lot less games. All right, thanks for watching. I'll catch you later. Bye.